program. Today, so we will discuss about organizing flagship IEEE conferences from the perspective of organizing several IEEE society conferences by me. So I was the general chair of IEEE PEDAS in 2016 and was the steering committee chair of PEDAS 2018. And recently I could play a crucial role in establishing a new conference called PESGIRI, IEEE PESGIRI also, that is supported by IEEE IEPE PELS Joint Chapter Kerala section. So I consider that if a person like I can play a major role in organizing major conferences. So every person attending this session will be able to do in a much better way than me in organizing large conferences. So I hope that this event will be quite useful to you all in that regard. The only prerequisite, as far as I am concerned, is to be a good IEEE volunteer. Then you will be able to conduct the conferences. So as Sir Francis Bacon said, reading makes a full man, conferences a ready man, and writing an exact man. So in conferences, all these aspects come into picture. That's reading will be there. For reading, you have then writing is to be there. Then presentation should be there. So all these skills come into picture. So there was time, maybe in 20 years back, when people, especially in India, had to spend a lot of money to attend the good conferences. Now things has been changing drastically. We are able to organize so many conferences, and a lot of people, students are coming up with novel ideas and presenting their papers. So this is a general overview of the content. So we will mention about what is meant by flagship conferences. We'll discuss quite briefly about different approvals, how to form committees, finding the right venue and date. Then various aspects of the conferences will be discussed in briefly, and more detailed explanations will be given by people in the next coming days. So I am quickly moving on to the next slide. So flagship conference, what is meant by flagship conferences? So generally flagship conference means it is an excellent conference and highly respected in a particular area, especially if it is a conference organized by societies. It will be focused on certain areas. So the quality of the conference is the quality of papers in the conference is the major concern. And other ranked successful conferences, that means specified standards, also come under this flagship conferences. Several examples are like TENGON, TENSIM by IEEE R10 section, and conferences such as ECCE, PEDAS, IECON by societies, IEEE societies and all. One remarkable feature of this flagship conference is the financial ownership of IEEE. So IEEE will have the financial ownership. It means if the conference is making profit, part of the profit has to be given to IEEE headquarters. Likewise, if the conference is at a loss, then IEEE will bear the loss also. Okay, so in flagship conference, in that aspect, the financial security is there. Also, the conferences will be insured by IEEE. So as I already mentioned, there will be they provide a platform to share and discuss the ideas through papers, exhibitions, plenary, tutorials and all. And a remarkable feature is, especially for society conferences, a good number of presented papers gets converted to IEEE journal publications later. So that is a major feature of these flagship conferences. A large number of papers will get converted to IEEE journal publications. So it's a great privilege to attend the conferences, flagship conferences. So as a first step to organize the flagship conferences is to attend the flagship conferences. So that may be the first step. So we can learn a lot of things by attending flagship conferences arranged inside India and outside. And another important thing is it will help us to get connected to renowned personalities in the field of engineering and technology. So the networking is very important. So that will be helping us to while organizing the conferences. So when we attend the conferences, major conferences, we will get connected to important personalities in IEEE, especially in IEEE. So that will definitely going to help us. Then all these flagship conferences will provide opportunities to become IEEE volunteer. So if you attend a conference, then there will be a lot of volunteer opportunities there. So that's another aspect. Then if you want to organize a conference, then the first question is what could be our role in that conference. Okay, so as far as IEEE is concerned, any individual can give a proposal to conduct a conference. But the important thing is how much manpower you have. That's the most important thing. So sometimes you will be proposing or putting forth a conference proposal on your own, but you require a lot of contacts. You should get the confidence from the committees, various committees, that you will be able to manage the things. But if you are part of part of an entity like a section or an institution, then it will be easier for you. Okay, once you decide your role, then you can start working, preparing a proposal and submitting it. So we'll discuss about the proposals quite soon. As far as an international conference is concerned, it will require a minimum of 2 years of planning. So that you have to keep in mind. In some major conference, it will be even be more than that. Then another step would be to identify key people to help you. Okay, so if you are planning to organize a conference, you have to identify the technical program chair, finance committee chair, publication chair and all. So because you have to include that also in that proposal. Generally speaking, the general chair of the conference will have the highest responsibility, and the general chair will be managing everything. So the day-to-day activity of the conference, the communications. So a lot of responsibility is there with the general chair. Okay. So once you decide to give a proposal, then we have to approach the sponsoring organizational units. For example, if your institute can support you, you should get approval from your institute. So if it is a section, you have to convey your interest in organizing a conference to the section, like that. Then if you want to have a society sponsorship, then you have to communicate your interest to the the correspond respective leader of that society who is handling the conference activities. Okay, then we have to bid for the conference. That is, we have to prepare a good proposal, and sometimes we have to make a presentation. So for society conferences, generally there will be a steering committee for the conference, and they will call for this conference proposals in a regular manner, maybe once in 2 years if it is a biannual conference, like that. So we have to look at their website of that particular conference. Then we'll get information regarding that call for proposal of the conference. Otherwise, we can contact directly to the steering committee chair. Okay, whereas in the case of art and conferences like TenCon and all, usually the proposal has to be sent from this section, it seems. Then these are the steps involved. Once you get the approval, approval from the sponsoring entities, then you have to apply for IEEE MC approval, that is meeting, conference and events approval we have to get. Then we have to fill in the conference quality questionnaire. That questionnaire will ask you about the technical program, mainly who are all the technical program committee chairs and members, reviewers, who are all going to be the reviewers and all. Then once you do that, then next comes the execution of MOU between the sponsoring entities, organizer and the IEEE conference service. That is, we have to execute an MOU between different sponsoring units. That will be the next step. Then IEEE conference service will send email to the respective sponsoring entities, and they will get the approval. They will help to complete the execution of the MOU. Then once we get that MOU completed, then we have to apply for conference publication program. Then we have to get the letter of acquisition. It means the IEEE will allot the conference catalog number, copyright information, and ISBN number for the publications. Then we have to register for IEEE PDF Express site, which check for IEEE Explorer compatible PDFs. Then we have to register for IEEE copyright if proceedings are to be acquired by the IEEE. So generally IEEE prefers all the papers presented in the conference to be published in IEEE Explorer only. Then we have to include in the proposal the conference theme. I think in the next session, Dr. Bijina will be discussing more about this conference theme. So I am not going to discuss more on that. Then the major point is we have to identify few clearly defined objectives for yourself and your team. That is why you want to conduct a conference. So you have to always ask this question. Okay. So what is the benefit the delegates are going to get? That question you have to always ask. Then once we get the approval, we have to expand the committee and delegate the responsibilities. That is the next step. Because if you are planning to be the general chair, you cannot do the entire thing, right? You have to distribute the responsibilities. Like a technical programs are to be entrusted with the technical program committee chair. You have to identify a suitable person for that. Then you have to identify finance committee chair, publication chair. These four roles are reserved for IEEE members only. We cannot put non-IEEE members in these positions. Then other positions are publicity chair, sponsorship chair, local arrangements chair, and executive committee members. So then There can be patrons or then international advisory board you have to prepare. So it is always better to have a good international advisory board, and we have to get consent from eminent researchers and industrialists all around the world and put them into our committee, and we have to uh, uh, loop them in their communications also. That is very important to get publicity for the conference. So essentially, the idea is to expand the committee and delegate the responsibilities. Then comes the finding the right venue and the date of the conference. So this is very vital for the success of the conference. Identifying the proper conference venue. Usually for flagship conferences, IEEE prefers hotel, major hotels. For flagship conferences, usually there will be large number of participants, maybe of the order of 1,000. So in that case, it may be difficult to handle people inside the institute or university. So generally for flagship conferences, IEEE prefer hotels. Then we have to do a site inspection. Then only we have to fix the site. Okay. Then we have to fix the right date for the conference. So if it is a flagship conference occurring at regular intervals, there may be specified time duration for conducting their conferences. Then you do not have much flexibility in that. Otherwise, you have to identify, you have to find out the right date for the conference. Right date means it should not conflict with the other major conferences. That is the main thing. If it does, then the number of participants will be less for your conference. Then another important thing is the about the low cost accommodation facilities and the number of hotels available in the particular location. That is very important. So especially IEEE will look for low cost accommodation facilities for students. So that is important. Then we have to get advice from past conference organizers who had already conducted conferences in that particular venue. We have to identify those people and get feedback from them. That will be really helpful. Then we have to contract all the documents with the hotel. So I think in the next coming sessions, these things will be discussed in detail. This we have already discussed. Then regarding the conference budgeting, I think this will be discussed in detail in the next few sessions. But when you apply for the conference, this budget is also important. So along with the conference date and venue, the committees, this conference budgeting is also very important. We have to include this conference budgeting also. So a proper budgeting is crucial for the success of the conference. So this budget needs to be submitted to IEEE for approval by all sponsoring entities. And the important thing is IEEE expects 20% surplus out of a conference. So even if IEEE, if it is a financially sponsored conference, IEEE does not want to be at the does not want the conference to be at a loss. So we have to target for at least 30% surplus in any conference. So even though the aim of the conference is not to make a profit, but we have to be very careful that the conference do not come into a loss. Generally, the sponsorship from industries decide the surplus. So we have to try for maximum sponsorship from the industries. So we have to So we have to target the industries who may get benefited out of the conference. So we have to look for the right industries. Then only we will get the sponsorship from them. For example, if we are organizing a conference related to power electronics, we may not be able to get much support from a mechanical or civil engineering industry, right? Then another important thing is the tutorial and plenary. So the idea is the presence of reputed speakers help to boost the publicity of the conference. So we have to look for reputed researchers or presenters who will be who are well known in the academic research community. Then another thing is the presence of these reputed speakers will help to get more papers also, because it will help to gain confidence of others. That's another important aspect. Then we have usually in a conference there will be the first day will be devoted to tutorial, generally tutorial and workshops. Then then we have to identify suitable persons for the tutorial. Tutorial will be generally will last for 2 to 3 hours duration, and it will be more tutorial oriented rather than this keynote speaks. The keynote keynote talk means it will last for only maybe 45 minutes or 50 minutes at a maximum. So we have to identify the key tutorial, plenary, and keynote speakers. Plenary means the entire there will be number of tracks for the conference, right? Plenary means the plenary speaker will address the entire tracks of the conference. So we have to plan carefully this tutorial and keynote talks. That's very important for the success of the conference. Then another important thing is the website. So if the website is poor, then you cannot expect a successful conference. So a good website means it need not be quite attractive, but the data in that website should be accurate, and the website should be updated in the regular intervals. So the information, the required information should be there at the website at the right time. So that is very important. Then another thing is the call for paper. The call for paper, we have to have proper brochure for the conference. Then that is to be distributed in other IEEE conferences. If you are attending other IEEE conferences, if you have the brochures ready with you, we can distribute those brochures in those conferences also. And we have to be very careful to prepare these brochures in a professional manner. Then another thing is the submission tracks and submission deadlines. So we have to properly distribute the topics into different tracks. Then we have to identify the track chairs, and then we have to give proper deadlines. So we have to open the website, open the platform for accepting papers. Then we have to close the paper submission in the right time. That is, the deadline is very important. We have to give the deadlines properly. Then the website has to be updated properly. Then the paper management site. There are different paper management sites such as Microsoft CMD, EC Chair, EDAS like that. So Microsoft CMD is a free software tool. We use this Microsoft CMD for in our conferences generally. Then another thing is the plagiarism detection. The IEEE provides free plagiarism detection tool in the called IEEE cross-check. So for IEEE conferences, we can request this free IEEE cross-check tool, by which we can check the similarity with similarity of all papers with other papers using the same paper management site. So I think we have only few more minutes left. So I will quickly go through other important aspects of this conference. That is the publicity, the data privacy, and answering queries. That is the publicity we have already seen. It's very important to have good publicity for the conference. So for that, this IEEE e-notice is a helpful tool by which we can send e-notices to all IEEE members. Then another important thing is the inclusion of IEEE conference share site. So in in major IEEE conferences, most of the papers come through IEEE conference search. So if we go to IEEE site and search for upcoming conferences, our conference information should be there. And we have to properly update. Suppose we extend the deadline, then that information has to be communicated to the IEEE MCE at the right time, so that they can update the conference search site. So that will help us to get more international papers. Then we can give the advertisements in the IEEE magazines. We can give free advertisements through those magazines. So we have to take extreme care to publicize our event. That's a important thing. That is, we have to for flagship conferences, getting papers may not be that much difficult, but if it is a new conference and if the conference is organized inside India and all, it may be difficult to get a lot of papers, international papers. So the publicity is very important. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Then another thing is the data privacy. That is, we have to be very careful with the privacy, data privacy. So people will be the others. We have the email IDs of all the others. We have their papers. So we have to be very careful dealing with those data. So we have to make sure that we don't misuse the data. Then another thing is the answering of the queries. There will be a lot of email queries and phone calls to the conference organizers. So it is very important to answer these queries in a timely manner. So the general chair has to make sure that he assigns someone to answer these queries. That is very important. So if we are not answering the queries from the others, then the other may not be putting their paper to the conference. So answering queries is very important, and it will take a lot of time too. Then then another thing is the visa arrangements. So the general chair has to see that the necessary clearance from the foreign affairs ministries are obtained well in advance, at least 6 months before the conference date. We have to apply for this visa arrangements. Then we have to make sure that we issue the visa invitation letter only after full registration. That's very important. Sometimes it can happen that we issue the visa invitation letter and before the others paying the full amount. It can happen that the people will come to India from some other countries, and you don't have, they may you don't have money, but they may be going elsewhere and all. If you have already have the registration, you will at least have the money, right? So the another thing is we have to inform the authorities before the conference. We have to inform the foreigner regional registration office at the airport about the conference, and we have to give information to the local police station also. Then the most important aspect in any conference is the paper review and the selection of papers. This decides the quality of the conference. So if the quality of the papers is not good, then the conference is rated poor. So after so many years, ultimately the paper will only be there at the IEEE Explorer. People will forget about the food and other activities, right? So only the paper will be there. So that will decide the quality of that will decide mainly the quality of the conference. So I think this will be taken up in one section, maybe day after tomorrow. Then another thing is regarding the tax payment to the government. So we have to make sure that we comply with the government norms regarding the payment of taxes and all. Then another thing is we have to use professional registration sites like say Explorer and all that, and so that the registration will be an easy process. So we have to make sure that the registration and the payment process is seamless as far as the others are concerned. So without a proper payment gateway and a professional registration site, it will be very difficult to handle this registration and all. Then another thing is the technical conference kit, event management, and logistics. That is, this is regarding the actual event. Once we have the paper ready, so we have to decide on the acceptance rate, how much paper we can select for the conference. Then depending on that, we have to prepare a proper technical program. So I am not going into the details of that technical program. So only thing is we have to develop a proper technical program. That is the another prime ingredient of any any good quality conference. So I am skipping through this. Hello, Dr. Santosh?
Yes, yes. Yeah. Maybe you can conclude within 2 to 3 minutes.
2 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
So I will conclude in 2 or 3 minutes. So there are a lot of things to be we are aware of a lot of things so that the conference is managed properly. So it will I have listed a few of the things. Because of the lack of time, we cannot go into all those details, but all these count to have a good conference program. So you can go through the points listed out here. So another thing is the conference banqueting. That's very important. Usually on the second day of the conference, there will be a banqueting. That's a gala dinner. So that is also very important. That is the socializing of the conference is another important aspect of in any conference. So that will provide a lot of networking opportunities to the delegates. That's very important. And in fact, in nowadays, this aspect is missing in these online conferences. Whereas in the physical conference, you have a lot of networking opportunities. So we have to make suitable arrangements, so that people can meet during the lunchtime, during the poster sessions, during the breakfast and all. So we have to properly manage the banquetings. So there are a lot of things in to be aware of this banqueting and all. So we are skipping through this. Then finally, we have to, once the conference is over, we have to analyze what went wrong and what went right. And we have to appreciate the volunteers, because usually the volunteers are behind the success of any conference. We have to appreciate those volunteers. Then we have to do an analysis of the conference, and we have to discuss about the lessons learned, so that it can improve the future conference events. Then another thing is the formation of a steering committee. If it's a flagship conference, there will be a steering committee, and if you are the general chair of the conference, you have the responsibility to build the next steering committee. So there will be people from IEEE entities like a section, societies, and all, and there will be a written conference MOU for every conference. If it's a flagship conference, we have to abide by that conference policy, and we have to form the steering committee. That is also the responsibility of the general chair. Then finally, we have to submit reports to IEEE. Then we have to publish the conference proceedings in IEEE Explore. For that, we have to within 1 month after the conference, we have to upload all the conference papers to the publishing wing of the IEEE. Then only the paper will appear in the IEEE Explore within maybe 2 or 2.5 months. So that is also very important. For that, this IEEE e-copyright is very important. So IEEE provide an opportunity to submit copyrights electronically. So through the conference management site, we'll be able to execute the IEEE copyright. That is also very important. Then finally, the auditing of the event is very important. So IEEE is very concerned about the auditing of the event, the closure of the event. We have to close the bank account properly, and we have to submit the bank closure report along with the audited report to the IEEE. So then only the IEEE will allow you to organize more conferences in future. Okay, that's also very important. And finally, this concluding, the organizing a successful conference is highly challenging, but it's highly rewarding too. But it requires careful planning, then good volunteer effort is needed, and finally good teamwork is needed. That's very important. Then timely reporting and closure of accounts are very essential for any IEEE conference. So finally, a successful conference is the one where the participants experience a major boost in attitude or get motivated for doing further research. Okay, these are some of the photographs of our recent conference, Pescary. Okay, thank you. So if you have any queries, you can ask.
Participants can interact by asking queries. You can also put the queries in the chat box.
Yeah, I think participants are warming up. Surely they will have a lot of queries, but maybe let us hear from other speakers as well. I think Trupti can just propose a vote of thanks and conclude.
Thank you, Dr. Jason, for enlightening us with his experience. Um, yeah, so I would like to add that your details about how to start from scratch planning a flagship conference was indeed very useful. It included points about importance of networking and what are the roles that are important while organizing a conference, and approvals that we need to look at, how to select venue and date and etc., where will be points that will be taken into consideration while planning. We also understood that website is very important, and as you finished while telling that a successful conference should definitely motivate the participants to carry forward their research and reach heights of their career is a very important takeaway, and that is what we all should strive to. So I would like to present our token of appreciation through virtually to you. Thank you, sir, for your inspiring talk.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope the session was useful to the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jason. Look forward to associate with you in future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Santosh.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Our next speaker. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can announce and.
Yeah, we shall start. So the next session is covering a very important aspect of conference organizing, which is defining conference goals, themes, areas, and TPC. So we have understood that these subtopics are very important when you are trying to plan a very flagship conference. So today, to talk about this, we have Dr. Bijuna Kunnu, Chairman IEEE, IA and PEL Societies chapter. She is the head of the Department of Electrical and Electronics at TKM College of Engineering. She is an outstanding teacher, a dynamic volunteer leader in IEEE, and I understand that she's an enthusiastic WIE member of IEEE Kerala subsection. She has taken various leadership roles and has been successfully conducting a number of flagship conferences. It's my honor to invite Dr. Bijuna to share her knowledge with us. Over to you, madam.
Dr. Bijuna, most welcome. You can share your slides.
Can you hear me?
Yes. You can start sharing your slides.
Yeah.